So welcome to the JDC West 2021 HR case presentation, sponsored by Raymond James. I would like to thank our judges today. Today we have with us Richard Hansen from the Canada Revenue Agency, Andrea Linger from Raymond James, Marie Pellerin, also from Raymond James, Preeti Desai from Raymond James, and Sativa Jatana, Vice President, Employee and Community Engagement with Manitoba Public Insurance. Competitors, you will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask you questions. I will be your academic moderator today, and I'll be the timekeeper and controlling the overall flow of the presentation. Time intervals will be noted in the Zoom chat by myself, beginning at the 10-minute mark. Following the presentation, I will facilitate the question and answer period. Judges will indicate their intent to ask a question by using the raise hand function. Just a reminder that no questions or comments will be permitted from the audience at any time. The audience is also prohibited from communicating to the presenters in any forum, including Zoom or via other mediums during the presentation or questions. If you're an observer, please ensure your camera is off and your microphone is muted. Once the question period has completed, the Zoom meeting will end. Competitors, you're free to begin your presentation.
Good morning, judges. Citywide Services is a company built on quality, and it's the reason for your growth over the past 3 years as well. However, it's been difficult to maintain this quality through your growth. And a lot of clients have no choice but to walk away because it's the only way you can remain competitive. We want to make sure that employees are treasured and are facilitated in achieving this higher quality despite these challenges. Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm here with my colleagues Remington and Carolina from ARC Consulting. And we're here to solve the primary issue today of hiring those 20 highly skilled staff to meet your clients' demands, as well as in the long term, reduce your turnover rate and ensure consistent pipeline of high quality employees to stabilize the company once more. So taking a look at our key problem, how can CWS meet the requirement demands while maintaining quality standards? We were looking at some of the criteria with regards to some of the alternatives you offered, and we realized that you must, for this plan to be successful, you need to remain cost efficient, you need to maintain a skilled workforce, and you need to maintain your timeliness in order to maintain some of those clients. Our solution today is called Securing Quality. And the impact is to retain those key clients that are threatening to leave within a few months and maintain the quality staff in the long term as well.
Thank you, Alex. So to better identify the problem your company is facing and how to best overcome it, we've performed a brief ICE analysis. So beginning with your industry, what we have noted to be of importance is that there are large international firms that do dominate the market. As well, COVID does pose an increased demand for this industry in particular, so there's still opportunity despite the looming pandemic. Additionally, there's required certifications and training within this industry. So this brings us to the fact that quality is necessary to remain competitive in an industry that already has such big firms and such high standards. Then moving on to your company specifically, the branches currently do lack capacity to hire effectively. There is definitely a reduced number of employees that would be responsible for these particular jobs. Additionally, there is a difficult work schedule that is required that, based on exit interviews you have performed with your employees, is causing them a lot of issue, and a big trigger for your high turnover rate is that requirement to work nightly and on demand. So essentially the critical insight from this is that CWS has very limited resources to handle the challenges that they are facing. However, we believe this can be overcome. Lastly, with your employees, they are largely untrained, consisting of self-identified minorities, as well as people who are simply unskilled for this work. Additionally, we are in the midst of a pandemic, so safety is a key concern as a very client-facing industry. The critical insight here being that your success moving forward depends on whether additional resources are provided to these unskilled workers.
So of course, looking at that, it is very important for us to put emphasis on your employees in the company. So just having a look at some quick ratios. So the most important factor here when we looked at the exit interviews that you conducted last year, there was only a 5% utilization rate for the mental health benefit. Now, if we take a bigger picture of what your company looks like, as Remington just said, 90% of your current workforce is a self-declared minority. So that could mean that potentially the benefits do not work the best way they could for the current employees. And as well, 81.67% of your employees do lack that quality skill set. So what can be done? So this leads us to a critical insight. So that CWS can foster a more skilled and engaged workforce by providing your employees with benefits that better suit their needs. That way your employees can really take the aspects they need to improve on and want to improve on and feel heard by the company to be more engaged overall.
So that brings us to today's criteria. Looking at the limited resources that Citywide Services currently has and the pandemic situation, we want to make sure that this solution is cost efficient and makes sense for the company's bottom line. As well, we want to make sure that the current employees, as well as future employees that we're bringing in, do have the skills necessary to provide the quality of service that is demanded from a lot of the clients. And we want to make sure that we do this in a timely fashion because there is only a few months until some of those contracts expire, and we do not want to risk clients walking away. And that brings us to our solution today.
So we have called our solution Securing Quality. So what does this look like? We have split it up into two key phases, both looking at short-term issues as well as long-term issues. In the short term, our key problem is focusing on recruiting those 20 critical employees to ensure that your clientele are retained. As well, we want to ensure that training and an on-call position are developed to produce more skilled workers. Long-term, we'll be discussing a benefits menu as well as improved outreach opportunities.
So we want to start by looking at the short term. And our primary problem today is how do we bring in those 20 required employees to meet the service requirements for our clients? And we recommend you do this by hiring the recruitment agency that you were deliberating as an option to screen and hire those 20 required employees. The important thing here is why we want to do this. It is cheaper than acquiring an operations coordinator. It is more specialized in screening and hiring qualified employees. And because you are just hiring the recruitment agency to do the job, they say within a month they can get them, which is a much faster recruitment process than having to rehire a operations coordinator and then having to go through a hiring process with a less specialized employee. Right off the bat, this meets all of our three criteria to meet the biggest challenge at hand. The impact of this is that CWS will use their resources more efficiently to attain higher quality than what they are currently able to achieve. And the relationship with this agency offers a great safety option for future hiring concerns that you may have. We have some solutions later on that will increase the quality of the hiring. However, you cannot foresee issues such as the pandemic. And if other issues arise, having that relationship with the agency and having that trust will create a great safety option. Our KPI is that so that 100% of sourced employees are hired. And once we recommend you do a performance review within the first few months, at least 80% of the new employees meet the quality standard they were hired to meet. Our timeline for this is within a month, the recruitment agency will source 20 candidates. They've committed to this. And ongoing, if you need it, the agency is willing to source 10 employees monthly if required.
So in addition to hiring those new employees, we want to ensure that quality is improved within your staff so that your clients remain satisfied. So we recommend creating mandatory training sessions for your employees. Very simple 3-hour session every 2 months to cover your company values, expectations, and consequences. So this is different from the formal certification, yes, but it ensures that your quality standards just increase by that much more. So it can be run by one of your HR team members, relatively low stress, and it'll start by reviewing your key company values and expectations to ensure that they're all hit when delivering them to your employees. These sessions can be run easily over Zoom, and we recommend having 2 different sessions that employees can attend, as it will fit to ensure that it fits into their schedule. You can do lecture style as well as team bonding activities to just promote a stronger company culture, as well as to ensure those values are properly taught. And then afterwards, we definitely recommend sending follow-up surveys to ensure the level of engagement people felt, as well as how they felt about the content that was delivered. So in terms of the impact of the training, it is a timely solution to improve the quality of your current employees. So things like people arriving late, people sleeping on the job. These are simple things that when reiterated can demonstrate how much your company values them and requires this high level of quality, which will in turn help your client relationships that are currently struggling. Additionally, it provides training that CWS is capable of. So as they cannot certify, this is a low resource, high quality option. In terms of a KPI, 90% of employees should understand company values and expectations at the minimum following this training, which can be measured through those surveys that we suggested. In terms of a timeline, you'll begin planning the training today. However, this is a very timely situation. So we recommend that the first training session is implemented in about a month and a half. And then try to do it every 2 to 3 months following, depending on the success, just to ensure that company cohesion and that those values are maintained long term. So then we move on to another component of our short-term implementation, and that is our on-call position. So an on-call position is essentially a way that employees can be scheduled for guaranteed shifts or these on-call shifts. So your company struggles a lot with employees disliking the lack of schedule, and your company has to often hire people incredibly last minute to fulfill last minute jobs. So this position can act as a support when those shifts arrive and eliminate the need to hire constantly. So the role can be developed and scheduled by your operations manager, and the information regarding the new position can be introduced in the training sessions that your company is already doing, paired up with follow-up emails. Essentially, you could likely start with 1 person on call per day, and then you could begin with less if you wanted to simply test out how the position worked, and then later on send out review surveys of the role and what people think of the new position. So what this means for an impact is it prevents the need for last minute hiring of untrained staff. So if your company is constantly having to just hire people to fulfill roles that you've committed to, it often means that they aren't at the standards that your clients are expecting. By having these on-call positions, employees can be hired to just be on standby if this is necessary, and they are already trained. Looking at a KPI for this is 85% satisfaction rate of the role implementation, which can be identified with those surveys again. And this would likely begin today with your position development, and by 3 months from now, your first shifts will be scheduled.
So of course, you may wonder, won't that be a little bit more expensive than giving on a new hire? Well, in our calculations, it is actually more expensive to hire a new employee to fill those scheduled shifts than paying an employee even $1 above the average wage you're currently paying to help fulfill those specific shifts. So as you can see, there's a $5,000 difference. And the employees that you will be scheduling on call will not only be experienced and skilled, however, they will also have such a higher satisfaction of their job, being able to be more flexible and knowing that there's a little bit more certainty to the shifts being coming forward. So that is why we have decided to go with this approach instead. So in the long term, now that we have satisfied your current contracts, we have to ensure that your employees feel valued and that they want to stay in the company to help ensure a lower turnover rate. So we have decided to recommend your company implementing a benefits menu. Now for a quick overlook of what that would be, is that management would conduct stay interviews to understand what employees would need, and then the HR will structure that compensation package to ensure that it can cater to each of your employees on a personal level. So items such as direct compensation remain the same. However, indirect compensation will come in form of a menu where employees can pick from. This will create a dynamic benefit plan that meets the varying needs of employees. So if we have a look at what would be in the various two sections, so direct compensation that would stay the same is base pay, group health and dental, and vacation and sick pay, what you have already in place. However, indirect compensation, while it would not cost your company anything more than what you already have in place, would allow for employees to, for example, if they want to have personal development services to move up in the company, they can choose to opt in for that. And that is where those succession planning conversations would occur. Or for example, if some of your employees, like I said, a large number of them are a self-declared minority, they can go to English language courses to help develop themselves to not only better understand their everyday lives and help personal development, but also to succeed better in training sessions that your company will be providing. So what would the impact of this be? It would be a flexible compensation structure that would empower your employees for personal development outside of the workplace, which would help with the turnover rate. And further, it would provide your company with an industry advantage for recruitment and make employees want to come and work here and bring their wonderful skills to the table. So what is the KPI for this section of our recommendation? So we hope that within the first year, when you create your exit interviews once again, the benefit utilization rate increases to 60%. That is quite a big jump from 5%. However, it would really show that this plan is working. And the timeline is that within 6 months, the compensation is reviewed, and within 1 year, it is implemented.
Finally, we want to look at the outreach portion of our implementation. What we recommend you do here is to create relationships with and deliver presentations to schools in the area. This includes not only the Northwest Law Enforcement Academy that already certifies their students, but also with Red River College, University of Manitoba, and University of Winnipeg, because currently the requirement for the licensing is waived by the governing body, which means that we can take those students on currently. How we will do this is a manager will reach out to schools and deliver info sessions via Zoom to various classes in those universities. They'll also participate in digital career fairs, and the focus here is to utilize strong messaging. This is an employment opportunity during COVID, a time that does not have many employment opportunities, and it is direct work experience for their future career, potentially in law enforcement. So the impact of this is that it'll help create a pipeline of qualified candidates. And it is a very simple recruitment format that requires few resources. Again, currently, they don't need the licenses to work in the security industry. However, with your training program coming in just over a year, if that waiver continues, you will be able to train them internally in time for when everything comes back to normal. So the KPI here is to recruit 45 candidates from local schools in the next year. And the timeline for this is today, you can start developing those presentations. And each month, after reaching out to various schools, you can perform 2 to 3 presentations easy with very few commitment to resources.
So of course, just a little overview of the costs. So as you can see, the cost of this plan would be around $117,000. However, if you look at the benefits that you will truly get out of it, it speaks miles. So you would not only save the contracts that are currently at risk, but you would also save money on the agency once you do implement that outreach program that we just discussed. And further, by decreasing turnover, the cost saved on hiring employees over the next few years speaks volumes. And that is truly what we want to recommend today, because it will make such a big difference in your company moving forward. And just to reiterate, the remaining profit from 2020, if we were taking last year's profits, you would still have just under $200,000 of profit to move around, given the cost of this. So your company is still remaining profitable.
So if we look at an overview of an entire timeline of our plan, in the first month, that is when you'll begin the development of your training and recruitment sessions. And then within the next couple months, that is when you will have your trained staff ready for those clients that have made demands to have it by February 15th. Additionally, you'll begin carrying out training sessions for your expectations and introduce your new on-call role. And then by the first year, your compensation plan will be introduced for an ongoing, and then ongoing will be training and recruitment sessions and your on-call shifts. So if we then move on to some risks, the first one we've identified is to the PISG waiver may be removed before the internal training program is approved. So the mitigation for this would be unlicensed hires will be then sent to the external training. That is a possibility. Additionally, a risk we've identified is that employees won't take advantage of the compensation despite the changes that we've made to improve it. The mitigation here would be just increase the communication of these improvements through employee meetings and emails, ensure that they're aware of the benefit to them of this package.
We wanted to conclude today's presentation with some of the key impacts that we are bringing to you today with our solution. First, you are able to retain key clients in those crucial revenue streams for your company. You're also able to set employees up for success, both inside and outside the workplace. And you're able to create a pipeline of skilled workers with low turnover rates, which makes for an overall more efficient use of your resources. Thank you, and we'll open the floor to some questions.
Thank you, competitor. Judges, if you want to use the raise hand function to ask any questions, and I will call upon you at that point. Andrea, you can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So quick question for you guys. It's noted that there's a very large wage discrepancy between our company and our competitors. How do you figure that just introducing this new benefits plan a year down the road is going to overcome that immediate challenge with our competition?
Of course. Thank you so much for that question, Andrea. So of course, we did take that into account. However, to secure the profitability of your company, it was not in the budget to increase those wages. However, through getting that conversation started about the benefit program changing, you can really ensure that industry advantage when it does come into play. And right now, you are talking to your employees and ensuring that they know that they're being heard and this program is coming into existence. However, if we recommended that you just simply change the compensation menu today and think of your own ideas to put on the compensation menu, it would maybe not satisfy the needs of your employees as truly as we hope that this plan can do.
Thank you. Richard, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious to hear a little bit more about what your plan would be in terms of performance reviews. You had mentioned including that in terms of addressing some of the client concerns. So did you have any discussions or any plans specific to that?
Yeah, so the performance review specifically for the new employees, that is based on the standard of the company. We know that the company has had issues with arriving on time, sleeping on the job. There's certain language skills that are required, and just making sure that the way they are communicating, the way they are operating is up to standard. There isn't a concrete plan that we had in mind. However, we recommend that the company does take a look at some of the issues that they're looking to combat with their current employees, and not only implement that into those training sessions, but also implement that into a bit of a performance review to check in on their employees and make sure that they're addressing the correct concerns throughout.
Maurice, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm looking at you long term, and you mentioned about like the outreach for school. Do you not concern as well that most students are just as soon as they complete their school and get their program that they're going to go in the field they study in, and instead of staying with you?
That is a valid concern. However, a lot of the times what we find with these kind of programs and changing your career path is that we often don't explore paths that we're not overly familiar with. And because a lot of them are in programs that never even give them the certification, this is giving them an opportunity not only to stabilize themselves during a time with very little employment stability, but it's also giving them an opportunity to create a little bit of loyalty with them, especially with something like the benefits menu, and show them that this is an equally viable option. So while this might still have a little bit of turnover because they are looking to move into their desired field, we are hoping that it is still a stable pipeline to fulfill some of the concerns that this company may have in the future.
Maurice, you can go ahead.
I have another question. How are you thinking of addressing as well the non-flexibility of shifts? Like you have overnight, you need weekend work people on weekend as well. How are you going to make these more appealing?
I'll take that one again. So what we have found is that the major concern with your employees is not necessarily nighttime shifts or weekend shifts. It's more the short-term changes that happen, the last-minute shifts, the last-minute changes that throws off their schedules completely. This is an industry that is filled with with slightly differing shifts. However, it's the lack of concreteness with their schedule, which is why something like the on-call position, somebody who is prepared to take on that challenge, would be a very strong addition to your workforce.
We have 30 seconds remaining.
If I could just also add on to that, of course, your employees, like you cannot overcome the fact that some employees may not be as willing to work night shifts or weekend shifts. However, that is the nature of the industry, and that is something that people come in understanding. So by providing this on-call position, like Alex did mention, provides a little bit more stability, and it also comes with an increased pay. So that is also your incentive to work those less desirable shifts that you just mentioned.
Thank you. That concludes our question and answer period today. Thank you, competitors. Thank you, judges, as well as thank you to our observers. Competitors and observers, you can please exit the Zoom room. Judges, you will follow me to the next Zoom room. Thank you and congratulations.
We just wanted to give a quick thank you to all the judges today. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for hearing us out.